If you feel like your bank account has developed a dozen invisible leaks that you didn't authorize, you aren't imagining things. By the time we hit the midpoint of 2026, the financial landscape has shifted into something unrecognizable from just a few years ago. We are living through a period where the traditional rules of budgeting have been set on fire. Consider the most recent data on how the typical household is actually functioning. In 2025 and moving into early 2026, the cost of simply existing has surged by more than 5%. Yet for the vast majority of professionals, the numbers on their paychecks have only crawled upward by a fraction of that amount. This isn't just a slight squeeze. It is a widening chasm between what life costs and what work pays. But the real tragedy isn't just inflation. It is the fact that a massive portion of our collective capital is being siphoned away by things that used to be smart, or at least justifiable, but have now morphed into predatory traps. We are talking about products and services that were once honest exchanges of value, but have been redesigned by corporate engineers to harvest maximum profit while offering you the bare minimum in return. The economy you were raised to navigate has been replaced by a system of stacked fees, recurring subscriptions, and psychological manipulation. Habits that felt perfectly safe in 2021 are now the equivalent of financial arson. The reality is that if you keep spending the way you did 5 years ago, you are effectively volunteering to stay broke. This is a deep dive into the 12 specific categories where your money is no longer buying you any real utility in 2026. Some of these you might have suspected, while others are so deeply woven into our daily routines that we stop noticing the damage they do. Understanding exactly how these mechanisms work is the only way to plug the leaks and reclaim your financial sovereignty. The first offender on the list is the modern ecosystem of food delivery platforms. We are looking at services like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and the various regional competitors that have made the idea of leaving your house for a sandwich seem like a relic of the past. There was a time when these apps felt like a luxury or a helpful tool for a busy Friday night. In 2026, they have become a standard operating procedure for millions, and the math has become absolutely catastrophic for the consumer. When you pull up an app to order a meal, you aren't just paying for the food. You are paying for a multi-layered tax that starts at the restaurant level. These platforms demand a massive slice of every transaction, often taking nearly a third of the total order value just for the privilege of being the middleman. Because restaurants can't survive on those margins, they do the only logical thing. They hike the prices on the app menu. If you compare the physical menu in a bistro to what you see on your screen, you will frequently find a hidden premium of 20 to 30% before you even get to the checkout page. Once you hit that checkout, the real fees start raining down. You have the service charge, the delivery fee, the small order penalty if you aren't feeding a family of 4, and then the inevitable expectation of a tip for a driver who is also struggling to make ends meet in this gig economy. By the time the bag hits your doorstep, a simple lunch that should have cost you $15 has ballooned into a $30 ordeal. You are essentially paying 100% markup for the convenience of not putting on shoes and driving 5 minutes down the road. If you make this a twice-weekly habit, you are looking at an annual wealth erosion of over $2,000. If you took that same amount and let it compound in a basic index fund, you would be looking at a 6-figure difference in your retirement nest egg just for the sake of some cold French fries. The interfaces of these apps are specifically engineered to make this spending feel frictionless, using bright colors and one-click ordering to bypass the logical part of your brain that knows this is a terrible deal. In the current economy, using these apps as a primary way to eat is a guaranteed way to stay in a cycle of financial fragility. Next, we have to talk about the absolute carnage that is the new car market. As we move through 2026, the average price of a fresh vehicle has climbed to heights that would have seemed like a typo a decade ago. But the sticker price isn't the problem. It's the immediate evaporation of value. The second that odometer moves from 0 to 1, you are hit with a massive financial penalty. On a standard $45,000 or $50,000 car, you are looking at nearly $10,000 of value simply vanishing into thin air before you even get it home. By the end of the first 12 months of ownership, you have likely lost a third of what you paid. This creates a dangerous situation known as being underwater, where you owe the bank more than the car is worth. If your life changes, if you lose your job or need to move, You are essentially trapped in a metal box that you can't sell without coming up with thousands of dollars in cash to close the gap. The smarter alternative has never been more obvious. Modern engineering means that a well-maintained vehicle from 5 years ago is still functionally in its prime. These cars have already taken the biggest hit in value, meaning that you can buy them at a massive discount and, after driving them for a few years, sell them for a significant portion of what you paid. This allows you to cycle your transportation budget without losing your shirt every time you want to change. Yet, the social pressure to have the latest plates and the newest infotainment screen drives millions of people into monthly payments that now average over $700. That is a staggering amount of money to spend on a depreciating asset. It is the single biggest hurdle for most people trying to build actual wealth. If you look at the habits of people who have actually achieved financial independence, they aren't driving the newest luxury SUVs. They are driving reliable, paid-off sedans from brands like Toyota or Honda. They view a car as a tool to get from point A to point B, not as a badge of their identity. In 2026, buying a brand new car is one of the most efficient ways to sabotage your future self. The third item that has lost its luster is the traditional sit-down dining experience. Don't get me wrong, I love a good meal out as much as anyone. But the value proposition in 2026 has completely inverted. Over the last few years, restaurant prices have skyrocketed by nearly 40%, but the experience has arguably moved in the opposite direction. You are paying double for a burger that is smaller than it used to be, served by a staff that is clearly overworked and underpaid because the restaurant is trying to cut every possible corner to stay afloat. A night out for a couple with a couple of drinks and an appetizer can easily clear $150. For that same amount of money, you could buy the highest quality steaks and a bottle of wine from a boutique shop and have a world-class culinary experience in your own dining room. The worst part of the restaurant bill is the markup on beverages. You are often paying $12 for a glass of wine that cost the establishment $2 or $5 for a soda that cost them pennies. These businesses are now relying almost entirely on these liquid margins to survive because their food costs have become so volatile. Furthermore, the time investment is massive. Between the drive, the wait for a table, and the slow service, you are giving up 3 hours of your evening for a meal that you could have prepared at home in 30 minutes. If you treat dining out as a rare celebration, it still holds value. But if it has become your default answer for what's for dinner, it is a massive drain on your resources. The industry knows that people are tired of cooking, and they are raising prices specifically on their most loyal customers to make up for falling traffic. It is a cycle that only ends when you decide that your hard-earned money is worth more than a mediocre pasta dish in a noisy room. The fourth drain on your finances in 2026 is the fractured world of streaming service bundles. We were all sold a dream a decade ago. Kill your expensive cable contract, pay $10 for one library of everything, and live in a digital utopia. That dream hasn't just died. It's been disassembled and sold back to us piece by piece at a premium. As we navigate this year, the major players, Netflix, Disney, Max, Hulu, Paramount, and the rest, have all hiked their rates simultaneously. If you want to keep up with the cultural conversation, you're looking at a monthly overhead that easily clears $100. It's the new cable bill, except you're now the one acting as the IT department and the billing coordinator for 6 different corporations. These platforms have mastered the art of content fragmentation. They intentionally outbid each other for specific franchises just to force you into another subscription. Your favorite sitcom moves from one app to another, and suddenly you're paying $15 a month just to watch a show you've already seen 20 times. They've also introduced ad-light tiers that are designed to be just annoying enough to bully you into the higher-priced premium versions. The average household is now bleeding nearly $1,000 a year on background noise and digital thumbnails they never actually click on. The only way to win this game in 2026 is to stop playing by their rules. The churn and burn strategy is the only logical path forward. You pick one service, watch the 2 shows you actually care about, and then you hit the cancel button immediately. You move to the next platform the following month. You treat these services like a rotating library rather than a permanent utility. Most people won't do this because the platforms make it just difficult enough to find the cancellation page, relying on your inertia to keep the revenue flowing. But if you don't take control of your digital subscriptions, you are essentially paying a private tax to Hollywood for content you don't even have time to consume. Fifth on our list is the absolute collapse of the fast food value proposition. There was a social contract for generations that said fast food was greasy and unhealthy, but it was fast and, crucially, it was cheap. In 2026, that contract has been shredded. A standard combo meal at a major burger chain now flirts with $15 to $18 in most metropolitan areas. A burrito bowl from a fast casual spot is nearly $20 once you add a drink and a side of chips. The prices have surged by over 50% in the last 5 years, far outpacing general inflation. What you're left with is a product that fails every metric of value. It isn't good for your body. It isn't particularly fast anymore due to staffing shortages and delivery app congestion, and it certainly isn't a bargain. For the same $20 you spend on a lukewarm bag of drive-thru food, you could go to a high-end grocery store, buy a pound of organic grass-fed beef or a fresh salmon fillet, and have a 5-star meal on your table in 15 minutes. The corporations behind these chains have realized that as long as they keep the salt and sugar levels high, people will pay almost any price out of habit and addiction. They are betting on your lack of planning. If you don't have a meal prepped, you default to the Golden Arches or the Bell. That lack of a plan is costing the average regular customer upwards of $4,000 a year. That is a vacation, a down payment, or a massive investment contribution sacrificed for the sake of processed chemicals. In 2026, fast food has become a luxury price for a bottom-tier product, and it's one of the easiest expenses to cut if you're serious about your financial health. Number 6 brings us to the trap of latest generation technology, specifically the annual smartphone cycle. We have reached a point of diminishing returns that is almost comical. The difference between the flagship phone released this morning and the one from 3 years ago is practically invisible to the human eye. Sure, the processor is technically faster, but your email doesn't load any faster because of it. The camera has more megapixels, but your Instagram photos look exactly the same because the app compresses them anyway. Yet, the marketing machines spend billions of dollars to convince you that your current device is a prehistoric relic. They use psychological triggers, new colors, slightly rounder corners, titanium finishes to make you feel like you're falling behind. In 2026, a new top-tier phone is a $1,200 investment that loses half its value the moment you peel off the screen protector. Manufacturers have also become more aggressive with planned obsolescence, making repairs prohibitively expensive so that you're nudged toward a replacement rather than a fix. The smart move now is to live 2 generations behind the curve. A refurbished phone from 2 years ago provides 99% of the same utility at 40% of the cost. If you stop the cycle of upgrading every 2 years and move to a 4 or 5-year cycle, you are saving yourself tens of thousands of dollars over your working life. Your phone is a tool for communication and information, not a piece of jewelry. When you treat it like a fashion statement, you are participating in a wealth-stripping exercise designed to benefit Silicon Valley shareholders at the expense of your own retirement. The 7th category is one of the most emotionally charged, the modern wedding industry. By 2026, the average cost of a wedding has ballooned to nearly $40,000. We are talking about a single 6-hour window of time that costs as much as a year of college or a significant down payment on a home. The industry has perfected the art of wedding creep, where every vendor adds a zero to their quote the moment they hear the word bride. A cake is $50 until it's a wedding cake, then it's $500. A venue is $1,000 for a corporate retreat, but $5,000 for a ceremony. This is emotional extortion disguised as tradition. Research has consistently shown a terrifying correlation. The more a couple spends on their wedding, the more likely they are to end up in divorce court. It's not that the party causes the breakup. It's that starting a lifelong partnership under the crushing weight of 5-figure debt or drained savings creates a level of stress that few relationships can survive. We've been brainwashed by social media to believe that if the photos aren't Pinterest perfect, the commitment isn't valid. But the marriage is the marathon. The wedding is just the starting line. Spending your entire training budget on the opening ceremony is a recipe for failure. In 2026, the most radical financial act a young couple can perform is to have a meaningful, low-cost celebration. A courthouse ceremony, a backyard dinner, a public park gathering, and take that $40,000 to build a fortress of financial security. Your guests will forget the centerpiece in a week, but you will feel the benefit of that saved capital for the rest of your lives. Number 8 is the rise of luxury travel that people can't actually afford. Travel is one of the most enriching things a human can do, but in 2026, it has become a competitive sport fueled by credit card debt. Airfare and hotel rates have climbed to dizzying heights, yet airports are more crowded than ever. The experience economy has convinced an entire generation that they are failing at life if they aren't posting photos from a resort in Bali or a villa in Italy every summer. This has led to a surge in lifestyle financing, where people are taking out high-interest loans or maxing out cards just to afford a week of sunshine. A family trip that costs $10,000 is a devastating blow to a household earning $70,000. That's months of labor traded for a few days of luxury. The industry has responded to this demand by stripping away every amenity and charging for it as an add-on. You pay for the seat, the bag, the water, and the convenience of checking in. The value has plummeted while the price has soared. You can still see the world without destroying your balance sheet. Slow travel, off-season exploration, and domestic road trips offer the same mental reset and cultural exposure at a fraction of the cost. The best memories aren't usually made at five-star resorts. They happen in the unexpected moments of discovery that don't require a concierge. If you have to borrow money to go on vacation, you aren't going on a vacation. You're going on a high-interest shopping spree for memories you haven't earned yet. The ninth financial sinkhole of 2026 is the ubiquitous rise of buy now, pay later financing. You've seen the logos everywhere at checkout: Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, and even the store-branded versions. They market themselves as a friendly alternative to credit cards, promising no interest and simple installments of 4 easy payments. In reality, these services are the most sophisticated psychological trap ever set for the modern consumer. They exist for one reason: to bypass your brain's natural spending brake. When you see a $300 jacket, your logical mind might say no. But when that same interface breaks it down into $75 today, your brain categorizes it as a minor expense. Data from early 2026 shows that users of these platforms spend up to 40% more than those paying with cash or debit. You aren't just buying the jacket, you're buying a version of yourself that you haven't earned yet. The danger is the stacking effect. One $75 payment is fine, but when you have 5 of them hitting your bank account on different Tuesdays for a hoodie, a blender, a pair of sneakers, a skincare kit, and a concert ticket, you've effectively garnished your own wages. Nearly half of users have missed a payment in the last year, triggering late fees and interest rates that make standard credit cards look generous. This is debt for consumption, which is the absolute worst kind of leverage. If you have to finance a pair of shoes, you simply cannot afford them. These companies aren't your friends. They are high-tech payday lenders dressed in pastel colors and clean fonts, designed to harvest your future income before you've even performed the labor to earn it. Number 10 on the list is the persistent addiction to branded products. We are living in an era where the brand tax has reached a level of pure absurdity. Whether it's household cleaners, laundry detergent, or over-the-counter medication, the name on the bottle is often the most expensive ingredient. In 2026, a name-brand bottle of pain reliever or allergy medicine can cost 3 times as much as the generic store version, despite containing the exact same active molecules in the exact same concentration. The FDA and consumer protection agencies have confirmed this for decades, yet we continue to pay a premium for the comfort of a familiar logo. That extra $5 or $10 per item isn't buying you better health or a cleaner house. It's funding the multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns designed to convince you that the product is superior. When you add up the brand premium across your entire grocery cart, from cereal and pasta sauce to trash bags and soap, the average household is throwing away over $2,000 a year for literally zero functional gain. The most extreme version of this is designer status clothing. We now see plain white t-shirts or basic hoodies with a luxury logo retailing for $600. The material quality might be 5% better than a high-street alternative, but the price is 1,000% higher. You are essentially paying for the privilege of being a walking billboard for a corporation that doesn't know you exist. True wealth is built by people who value the utility of a product over the perception of its label. In 2026, loyalty to a brand is a luxury you can no longer afford. The 11th category that is no longer worth your capital is the subscription box industry. This market has exploded into a multi-billion-dollar behemoth by exploiting our love for unboxing and the dopamine hit of a surprise package. There are boxes for everything: makeup, snacks, tactical gear, dog toys, coffee samples, and even mystery clothes chosen by an algorithm. The value proposition here is almost always a lie. These companies buy surplus inventory or low-tier products in bulk and package them as curated luxury. When you actually sit down and price out the individual items in your monthly box, you will almost always find that you paid a 20 to 30% premium for things you didn't actually choose. It's a clutter machine. Most people end up with drawers full of samples they never use and gadgets they never needed, all while a recurring $40 charge hits their credit card every 30 days. The business model relies entirely on your forgetfulness. They make it incredibly easy to sign up and notoriously difficult to cancel, often requiring a phone call or a multi-step digital maze. By 2026, the novelty has worn off, but the inertia keeps the money flowing. If you genuinely need a new razor or a specific snack, go buy exactly what you want. Paying a premium for a surprise is just a high-priced way to fill your closet with trash. It is an automated drain on your wealth that provides 5 minutes of excitement followed by months of clutter. Finally, number 12 is the most common daily leak: the $7 to $10 premium coffee drink. We've heard the latte factor argument for years, but in 2026, the numbers have reached a breaking point. A specialized drink at a major chain, with the customizations, the seasonal flavors, and the expected tip, is now pushing toward the $10 mark. If you do this every workday, you are spending $2,500 a year on bean water and sugar. When you compare that to the 50 cents it costs to brew a world-class cup of coffee at home using high-end beans, the math is staggering. The coffee shop isn't selling you caffeine. They are selling you an experience and a third-place environment. But if you're just grabbing it in the drive-thru on your way to a job you don't love, you aren't even getting the environment. You're just paying a 2,000% markup for a habit. If you took that daily $10 and invested it in a standard retirement account with average returns, you would have over $250,000 in 30 years. Think about that for a second. Is a slightly more convenient cup of coffee today worth $250,000 of your freedom later? Most people haven't made that choice consciously. The habit just happened to them. In 2026, the gap between the cost of producing things and the price we pay for them has never been wider. The common thread across all 12 of these categories is that they exploit our desire for convenience, our need for status, and our natural human inertia. We live in an economy designed to make spending as invisible and frictionless as possible. From one-click ordering to automatic renewals, the system is rigged to keep your money moving away from you. But the moment you start looking at the numbers, the real, raw math of what these habits cost over a year or a decade, the illusion shatters. You realize that you aren't just spending money. You are trading chunks of your life and your future freedom for products and services that deliver almost no lasting satisfaction. The corporations and the algorithms want you to remain on autopilot, reacting to every notification and every craving. Your only defense is a ruthless commitment to awareness. It's about asking one simple question before every transaction. Is this purchase actually improving the quality of my life, or am I just a passenger in someone else's sales funnel? In 2026, knowing the difference isn't just a good habit. It is the only way to survive and thrive in an increasingly expensive world. Your money is your stored energy. Stop letting it leak out of holes you didn't even know were there.